There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Chris Handy. He is the CEO at ClosedWon. Chris, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks, James.
I'm excited to chat with you, Chris. We're going to be talking about live messaging, bots for sales teams. I feel like every website I go to now, I'm seeing these pop up more and more and more. Seeing some really creative ways that people are using them, leveraging them, and came across you and your team. I guess it was about a week or so ago now, and you're partnering with a company called Drift, which is a major player in kind of the chatbot space. And we're going to be talking, about live messaging and how companies can start using, bots for their sales teams. But before we get into that, I would love to have our listeners understand why you're the guy to be talking about this. Can you explain what ClosedWon is and what you guys are all about over there?
Sure. ClosedWon is a company that's going to help start more conversations for your sales team. And we'll work directly with an internal marketing department, an internal sales team. We don't have a huge number of bodies sitting around waiting to be your full service agency. That's not really what we're focused on. We're focused on helping empower the sales and marketing teams to just literally start more conversations with their prospects. There's so many people out there that are on your site with questions, and these are real opportunities to reach out. And it's just up to you and us to reach out and start a conversation with them.
I love it. So are you guys kind of build out the sequences that the bot delivers, or do you guys actually man like the actual conversations on the back end? How does the service work?
It's a great question, James. There are so many folks out there that put all their focus on the chat bots. And when we talk about live messaging, we have to really just sort of take a step back, and I'll get to that. But we have to take a step back and think about how people actually behave. And when I talk to sales teams, they're doing more business over iMessage. So it's not so much about the chatbots. Well, we're going to help set those things up. We have to focus on working with the teams, helping them be prepared for what's coming. And there's certainly a big shift happening. It's been happening for a while, but it's happening faster and faster these days in communication habits. So I'm a student of buyer behavior and social psychology and things like that. And we just see people moving towards the path of least resistance. And so the way we work with the tool like Drift is we go in and we find places to smooth out that friction and to make it easier for people to reach out, and for people who have questions to start to ask them. And we'll also help build the knowledge base based on all the data that's coming in. The opportunity here is amazing for market research and all of that. So first and foremost, we're helping build out tools and use bots for good and not evil. We can talk about that. But the plain text that goes into these tools was most important. The technology is fairly simple to set up, and we've gotten really good at that.
But it's the actual messaging.
The text.
Yeah. The text inside of the tool is where people are getting tripped up.
That's right. And we haven't even figured out what the right word is for this, but I think it's something like micro copywriting. And just a simple one sentence thing could have a huge effect on your business that goes into a little invitation to reach out. And so we want to start helping companies measure that.
I love it. So Chris, as we were talking about this idea offline, one of the things you mentioned is, really wanting to dive into kind of how do people avoid sounding like a chatbot. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Sure. So there's two things here. Chatbots are what everyone talks about, right now because there's a lot of hype around it. So there's a tendency to fill things out and make your bot sound like it's there as sort of this robot third party. And when people are counting on that bot being there and thinking about it as the first line of defense, they tend to not behave in a way that they would if they got a text message. So a message comes into your website, and I'll see sales teams sit there typing forever to respond to a simple question like, hey, do you have a pricing page on your site? And a lot of companies that we work with don't. We work with a lot of enterprise software companies, for instance, and some of them have not gotten on board with sharing their pricing. And so this is a huge question. Now, my thought is you need to have some kind of answer for this, even if you don't post your sales spreadsheet up there. But people will just sit there composing something for a long time. And you could see that, that little typing thing that while you're waiting for somebody to respond. Yeah. Well, that doesn't give somebody a quick answer. Like the better response is like, hey, bud, glad to talk with you about this. Like just super fast. And when we get sales teams and most importantly, company leadership on board with that type of casual messaging, it doesn't have to be completely casual Friday messaging. It can be business casual and still short, to the point, letting them know you're there and you're going to talk through this together. And when I work with companies and they're getting set up, I'll tell folks, don't even log in online to these tools. Just have it on your phone, because that's how I use it. I will always respond from my phone. Sometimes if it gets into a big conversation, I'll pop it up on my big screen. But when there's something that happens when you're tapping away on your smartphone that changes the way that you communicate. You tend to be more direct, more to the point, more casual, more human. And that's what people want on the other side. They want to know that they're talking to someone who's going to work with them on this, whatever it may be.
Got it. And so by forcing yourself to respond on mobile, you naturally just understand when you're on mobile that I guess it's easier to tell yourself like that it's okay to have shorter messaging and to talk to someone like you would in shorthand via text message or, Facebook message or whatever. So I love that. I love that hack of, instead of responding on your desktop or on your laptop, responding actually inside the app. Is there anything else kind of related, Chris, to better short form messaging that you've seen companies implement that have worked for them?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many ways to respond to people, one of them being chatbots. And I think when people think about chatbots, they think about it, like I said previously, as sort of a first line of defense. And I think that's the wrong way to think about it. When we started to really see results is when we realized that this chatbot is there to help kind of streamline these processes that were painful before. So I look to Amazon for this kind of thing, right? When people think about Amazon, a lot of people will argue that why are you saying that they have a great customer experience? There is no experience. And I think that's exactly the point. Yeah. They've removed all these layers of junk that you have to wade through to get something to your house and to choose a product. At this point, we are yelling out in our home and demanding that something show up tomorrow, and it happens. Yeah, I mean they've even removed the one click buy that was so revolutionary. Yeah. So if we think about that and think about what they actually removed, and that's what I look at. So what did they remove? Well, they removed entering credit card details. They removed entering information every time. They removed thinking about when it was going to come. Right? I don't think about when it's come when I order from Amazon. I know it'll be here tomorrow or the next day or whatever. I know it's going to be here fast. So that makes it default. That is something I don't have to think about and I can be more of an on-demand, just-in-time kind of operation personally and professionally. So how can we do this? How can we extend that type of experience? How can we take inspiration from Jeff Bezos and put it right in with how we're communicating with customers? Well, the chatbot in something like Drift can be called upon to schedule a meeting right there in the middle of the conversation. So if I'm talking with you, James, and you say, hey, what's your Friday look like? Like, I could do one of two things. I could say, let me get my calendar open, and then we could have this long back and forth. Or I could just press a little button that pops open my calendar for them to choose a time, for you to choose a time. That's how AI and these kinds of things that people get all buzzy about is helping people now. We talk a lot about the future, but this is how it's helping people now. Now, if we're not online after hours, the thing's going to pop on and it's going to be who I want to talk to. All right, sounds like we could get you on the calendar. Here's the thing, right? Here's the calendar thing. Choose a time. So it helps smooth out those times when they would have otherwise waited a whole day to talk to us, or in some cases, what we've seen, like a week, because people just respond to customer inquiries. And it just puts them right there. It allows people to schedule. I think that's the simplest chatbot implementation. There's so many other things you can do, but I was actually looking at a software product that is building their own bot, and I got to look at their beta. And the default stuff. So you press make new bot, right? You press the big button that says make new bot, and it's got all this default stuff in there, and it says things like, how many people work at your company? Where's your company located? And it's a form. It's a form in a chatbot. And that is all simple information that Clearbit just puts into our stuff. We don't need to ask people for that.
Yeah.
So using bots to gather simple information like that is publicly available that's using it for evil, using it to smooth out processes that are they're otherwise painful and need to be done. That's using it for good.
Have you seen those really fun-looking infographics at conferences? They're basically a cartoon representation of the main takeaways from the keynote speaker's talk. Well, we've started doing those for some of our B2B growth interviews. I posted the first one on LinkedIn, and the response was amazing. There's no way that I'd be able to afford those types of graphics, though, if it weren't for Kappa 99. For just $399 a month, Kappa 99 offers an unlimited graphic design service. And it really is unlimited. They do all of the images for our blog. They've done all of our pricing sheets, our case studies. They can even handle the creative for your ad campaigns. So head over to b2bgrowthshow.com/design and sign up for their 15-day free trial. That's b2bgrowthshow.com/design. Your life is about to get a whole lot easier. All right, let's get back to this interview.
And so what's one of the best executions of these chatbots that you've seen, whether it's, a client of yours or somebody that you just admire that's just really doing this right? Can you walk us through kind of what you see there and why you think it's so effective?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this is such a simple thing that people don't think about, because folks tend to get excited about technology and how this thing is going to replace forms. And even Drift is out there saying, don't have any forms on your site. I actually kind of don't agree with that. I think some people want to fill out a form and some people want to talk now. So providing both options is a better service to your customer, in my opinion.
Got it.
But do we need to provide a chat bot for everybody? Well, if you haven't really thought about what it's for, maybe you think you do. But there are simple things like HR, and you could apply this to anything across the company, but there's a thing with HR where they need candidates. They're looking for good people, and putting a chatbot on your HR page, on your recruitment page, is a really effective way to pull in new people, because typically what you see with these recruitment pages or job listing pages on people's websites is a listing of jobs. Here's what's available, but there's not really an easy way for someone to reach out, and it requires going and filling out a generic form, and maybe it's even really long. Maybe they've put in resumes and you have to fill out a cover letter just to start a conversation. Well, I talk to a lot of companies that are growing fast and they want to talk with more people. So putting something like that to get the conversation started on something like a hiring page is an interesting way to start a conversation, just long enough You can gather a little bit of information there because you're sort of they're asking for something. So there's a risk reward thing going on there. But I think chatbots are to be used in situations like this as an alley-oop, right? They're sort of a stalling mechanism. Here, play with this thing while I get ready to come and talk to you. So I think you should look to try and come in and talk with the people who are engaging with these things. If you have one for your pricing page because someone has come on 5 times to your pricing page in the last couple of weeks, and you launch a bot that says, hey, what has you interested in this? And you gather a bit of information. You should have a sales rep that's ready to hop in there in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to have a quick response time. We've been working on response time, and we got down to 4 seconds last week. And that was not because we were just ready to go sitting there with a headset on at a workstation. It's because we had strategic placement of bots. We jump in fast, and we put priority on that. And it's certainly paid off as far as building pipeline. And so that's what we're helping companies figure out how to do.
I love it. I was telling you offline, Chris, there's a company called Branch Messenger, and I was talking to them a couple weeks ago and went to their site, saw that they had implemented Drift, and the question that they had, where most folks just have like, how can I help? Or, some kind of generic question as the kind of the welcome message on the chatbot. Theirs was, what was your first job? And I thought that was just such a brilliant execution of a chatbot on a website, because it instantly made me want to engage with the bot, because it was a question that was very easy for me to answer. And it piqued my interest to see, when I answer this, what's going to happen next. And so they had obviously, gone through the work of having different workflows set up, and they had an instant response come back, collecting my email in case they weren't able to get back to me right away. But what are your thoughts on kind of getting creative with that initial question that people use to engage visitors on their site?
That is, I love that example, because it is the ultimate icebreaker, right? It's just, you want to answer that question. It's about when I'm on that page, it's about me. And it's someone wanting to ask me about my stuff, right? You go to networking events, and if you're the guy that only wants to talk about themselves, then no one's going to like you.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the guy that everybody likes, you go and you ask other people about themselves, because people like to talk about themselves.
Yep.
So that plays into all kinds of human wants and needs right there. It's amazing. I've got a buddy, Ed Marsh, and he's incredible when it comes to taking businesses international. And he's kind of in this space in B2B. And I've just pulled it up now. It says, hate forms and contact us pages. I hear you. This should be easier. Let's chat. And I think it's just so simple. It's not as much of an icebreaker, but it certainly plays into what's going on now with people just not wanting to fill out forms. Like, being direct about why this is here and open about what it's for is a really good idea. And it doesn't have to be this big novel.
The thing that I like about this live messaging component is just your ability to showcase much more personality in your messaging. And I think the connectivity that comes with that, the engagement that comes along with that, it's why I'm in love with LinkedIn right now, and the engagement that we're getting on content that we're putting out, because of, the way the algorithm works or whatever, because it's allowing me to show off my personality a lot more than just, even in our main form of content marketing for our own agency is our podcast. But that's a one-way kind of push of communication, where on LinkedIn, I can put something out and get engagement and go back and forth with each person. And in each of those kind of replies inside of my comment thread, it's one additional opportunity for me to show off more of, my personality, to be human in a sense. And that's what I love, and what I've been able to do through the live messaging tool. And we use Drift as well on our site, And so I just think there are so many benefits. You've covered a ton of them here, Chris. If there's somebody that's listening to this, maybe they're interested in working with ClosedWon and working with you guys to really help them develop what that strategy looks like, how to implement Drift, or they just want to stay connected with you. Maybe they've got some questions they want to run by you. What's the best way for them to connect both with the company, ClosedWon, and with yourself?
Thanks, James. The things you just said are amazing, and there's some awesome technology coming down the pipe. I mean, today even you can have sales reps send an email, and then that if you click on a link going back to the website, that conversation stays connected. So the sales rep is going to be the one appearing on the chat. It's just so incredible how fast this stuff is happening. So for folks that are really looking to get their sales and marketing teams working together on this stuff to have a consistent message, then it's probably worth checking out our website, ClosedWon.com. That's WON. And if you're really interested in Drift, we've got a new podcast that just came out, and we're launching new episodes pretty quick here. And you can find that in your favorite podcast app by searching Drift to Go. Drift to Go.
Love it.
So those are two great ways.
Is that a podcast you guys are doing with Drift, or is that on your own?
We're doing it on our own. It's going to be quick tips, like 5 minutes. Here's a thing you can go and do today in your Drift account and knock it out of the park.
Subscribing now. Drift to Go.
Right.
Awesome, Chris. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic. I really, really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom with us. So thanks a lot, man.
James, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.